all my exploits in South America. Everything in there's true. So that's one thing, at least the book is full of truth.
Good thing to know.
But I like to bullshit around a lot. I think people take life too seriously.
Absolutely.
So, it's all right to just kind of embellish the truth sometimes. And, I've explained to my son there's bullshit and then there's bullshit. And I would assume most people out there know the difference. So I'm just going to lay a little bullshit on you today, not go for the other one. So, but I've got a feeling we're going to see Luke any moment. Because I know you're all here to see Luke and not me. Okay, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, do we need a script for the... Okay. Good afternoon. Oh my God, you can do a lot better than that. Good afternoon. More better. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the 32nd anniversary of the Miami Book Fair. My name is Raif Yassin, a volunteer room host, and we are delighted to have you here this year. If you look through the schedule for event today, you will see there are many venues over here, so hopefully you'll enjoy them all. We also have activities in the Children Alley and programs in the swamp and the porch and much more. Please consider becoming a member of Friends of the Book Fair. This is how they get their money to make this venue going every year. Contribution will be supported of this book fair. Friends receive multiple benefits such as preferential seating and admission to the special book fair events. This year, they're making it much easier for you who are smartphone savvy. Just text book to 501501 to donate $10. Then you'll receive a text back said, are you sure you want to pay $10? You hit yes and you're done. And they'll thank you for that.
Can you repeat that information?
Yeah, just...
No, I'm just kidding. Keep
man,
going.
I'm just about to quit because of this guy. We are all...
Can somebody get security and have this guy removed from the room,
Absolutely.
please?
They will be delighted to do that for you. Anyway. Okay, where was I?
I don't know.
Don't ever do drugs. Anyway, so that brings me to the next point. So we need to thank our volunteers. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. So this year we're grateful to thank our sponsors, including the Knight Foundation.
Could you keep it short, though?
Oh my God. I want you to do me a favor. I need you to take a chill pill.
Well, your option is also to cut off my mic, but that would go against Luke. By the way, Luke, it's great to
Where's
see
the
you.
Introducer?
Come
over here. I'm done with this.
Luke's
one.
whole thing of freedom of speech and all, wouldn't really,
All right.
that wouldn't jive well. But continue, please. I find this very
I'm done.
interesting.
Let me
no,
introduce
go
the
on.
introducer.
No, man, do your thing. Do your thing. I'm just joking around.
All right, no problem.
We're killing time here.
All right. So, the Miami Book Fair does not end today. There are events throughout the year, so keep in the lookout. Miami-Dade is one of the colleges that they actually make this thing possible. Okay, after this, of course, this guy will make it very clear. There's going to be a Q and answer over here after this his introduction in this session.
Did you say Q&A or T&A?
And he's the one who's saying I'm wasting time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Anyway, I don't want to say anything. I'm about to say something not nice. Not funny, not nice. All right, this year I would like to, finally, could you do me a favor, just including myself? Could you turn your cell phone off just in case we don't interrupt this guy while he's talking? Because you're not going to hear the end of it, I'm sure. So anyway, so finally, let me introduce to you Alfred Spellman, who's going to introduce our author today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So just to get this out of the way, the Cowboys just scored. They're leading the Dolphins 21-14, which is, I'm guessing, what Luke is doing right now, actually, is knowing what a big Cowboys fan that he is. My name is Alfred Spellman. I'm the co-founder of Raconteur and the producer of the documentaries Cocaine Cowboys, The U Part 2 for ESPN's 30 for 30 series. Thank you. And happy to be here today to introduce Dr. Dread. Dr. Dread has committed his life to producing reggae music and releasing it on his label, Ras Records. He has become one of the world's foremost reggae producers and has worked with almost all of the genre's icons. He even founded his own line of Jamaican food items, Dr. Dread's famous Jamaican jerk products. The Half That's Never Been Told, the real-life reggae adventures of Dr. Dread, is a must-read roster ride for anyone interested in reggae music, Jamaican culture, and the colorful characters that created an unforgettable scene. In the book, Dread recounts how he became an honorary Jamaican after consuming a whole mess of ganja and eating a mushroom, quote, put there by the almighty Jah for me to consume, a religious experience I certainly never had growing up attending Hebrew school at Temple Menorah in Miami Beach. But looking forward to hearing that story and the rest from Dr. Dread. Now it's on you.
Well, you know, I'm tempted to be Dr. Dread and Luke Skywalker. So when I'm sitting in this chair, I'm Luke. You got me? And I'm sorry I'm late, but I was fucking pussy. Oh, sorry. That's what Luke... Hey, Luke, man, don't talk to people like that, man. This is a room of sophisticated adults. I don't give a fuck, Dr. Dread. I went before the Supreme Court and got the right to say anything I fucking want to. Yeah, but Luke, really, man, these people, they came here to hear about these books we've written. Everybody, let's hear it for Luke Skywalker.
Dr.
Thanks,
Dread.
Luke.
Okay, so listen.
Where you been, man?
What's it again?
You're late.
So listen.
You Jamaicans, man, you're always late.
That's
What's up,
true.
man?
So here's what I think would be cool. Dr. Dread wrote this amazing book, and I think we'd all like to hear about the book and his life in reggae until Luke gets here, right? So first of all, when was the first time that you went to Jamaica? What year was it?
I first went to Jamaica in 1977.
And what took you to Jamaica?
Well, I went to Jamaica on a spiritual quest. I had very long dreadlocks. I had a beard that had been growing for about 3 years. I smoked weed from the minute I woke up till I smoked enough to put me to sleep again.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really got heavy into the music and culture and Rastafari, thanks to Bob Marley's music and also to a movie called The Harder They Come.
Right, which was written and directed by Perry Hensel.
Yep.
So, in your time in music in Jamaica, who are some of the stars whose music you produced and distributed? I know you worked with Barrington Levy. Does anyone know Barrington Levy? Shoodly waddly widdly diddly diddly whoa. Right, good.
Scene.
Gregory Isaacs.
Gregory.
Freddie McGregor.
Freddie McGregor sang at my wedding.
Good. So who are some of the other reggae acts that you worked with?
I forget. No, hold on. No, there's like Black Uhuru,
Right.
Yellow Man.
Yes.
I even put out an album with Bob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Eka Mouse, J.C. Lodge. I put out the song Bad Boys by Inner Circle,
Yeah.
which was a monster hit.
Yeah.
And, you know, I put out almost 300 albums, and I actually, you know, kind of spent a lot of time in the recording studio learning and crafting my skills as a producer. And that's really what feeds me and my creative spirit, is being in the studio, because there's a certain magic as you create music, where like growing from silence, you know, is note after note. And see, I hear things in my head, different riffs, you know, that a guitar could play, or a keyboard part, or a melody. And I could relate these sounds I was hearing that would fit into the music that these artists were recording.
Now, before you got involved in music in Jamaica, were you involved in music in the U.S.?
Well, you know, I don't think anybody's not involved in music.
Oh, well, were you producing music in the U.S. or distributing music?
No, nope. I started in '77 when I went to Jamaica. I walked across most of the country. Are you familiar with the town of Old Harbor?
Yes.
You know Bog Walk?
Yes.
I walked from Old Harbor to Bog Walk.
And you didn't get robbed?
Huh?
And you did not get robbed?
Not only did I not get robbed, but I felt the love
Yeah.
of the Jamaican people.
Yeah.
And, you know, they would invite me in their homes and say, why are you walking? You know, you can get a taxi. And by then my hair had dreaded up.
Right.
So I let it dread up. And they would like fix me lemonade with lemons and sugar and sit down and talk to me about what I'm doing. And this is how I, you know, learned to get to know Jamaican people and their culture. And it's something that has just become so ingrained in me and part of really who I am.
But after getting involved in music, did you get a fuller picture of what Jamaica could be, some of the complexities of Jamaica? I know that some of the artists that you worked with in reggae were not always nice people all of the nice time.
Well, you see, Colin, I have a theory. I have a theory that, like, the I Ching, you know, is in two sections, the yin and the yang. And they talk about people being bipolar. So I think there's a duality in all of us, where we have a nice side and we have a mean side. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad. You know, some people who get into the extremes might need medication, you know, to bring their bipolarity back closer to the center.
Right.
So when you talk about artists who are mean, you know, I don't really see it that way. I see people get into different places, you know, in their lives and how they are at the moment. Like right now, I'm feeling really good.
Right. But there's a chapter in your book where Gregory Isaacs pulls a gun on you.
Yeah, but see, he didn't pull the gun on me because he wanted to shoot me. There's a
Right.
difference. You know, in Jamaica, you know, we have the rude boys. So, you know, I learned from early on, you know, Jamaican people love spaghetti westerns and
Right.
Clint Eastwood and all that.
Right.
And a lot of that is just what we call modeling, you know, where they want to look bad and be a badass. But early on, I told Jamaicans that I was a descendant of the Corleone family. So I told them that we take people out. And believe it or not, this is really weird, but this rumor spread around Jamaica
Right.
that Dr. Dredd is a Corleone and not to be messed with. So, you know, when Gregory pulled the gun on me in the studio in the middle of the night, you know, Gregory used a lot of crack cocaine, unfortunately. And I felt like he's so wasted, the gun is going to go off accidentally. And I wasn't worried he was so mad at me he was going to shoot me. But I could see the headlines in the Gleaner the next day: American reggae producer murdered in Jamaican studio. But you know what? That kind of comes with the turf down there.
What's
you know?
what's the funniest thing that ever happened to you in music in Jamaica? There must be funny stories. While you ponder that, let me ask you another question. What? what
I
is?
can give you a short one.
Yeah.
It's not that funny, though,
All right.
really. But I saw these kids performing in the grill,
Yeah.
and they must have been like 11, 12 years old.
Yes.
And the crowd went crazy. So I said, okay, I'm going to put these kids on a bus, bring them to Kingston. I named them the Rat Pack. There were 4 of them. And, you know, I think I'm a creative person. So I brought them all the way to Kingston. They'd never been there. And I took them in the studio, and they were so awful, I just put them on the bus back to the grill.
What is
The Rat Pack. You'll never hear about them.
What is the most joyful moment you ever had in reggae?
Well, there's many.
But what are 2 of them?
All right. One of them, again, Jamaica had a really bad hurricane one year. It was Gilbert. And it really smashed up the country. And I first went to Negril, and I drove all the way to Port Antonio to a show that was called Eastern Consciousness. And Ziggy Marley was on it, as was an artist who I wanted to record named Charlie Chaplin.
Yes.
So Chaplin got on stage, and again, you know, when I pick artists, I look for the whole package.
Right.
They got to be a good performer. They got to have a look. They got to have a unique sound to them. Good writer. You know, they need all the elements of what makes a great artist. So Chaplin was on stage, and the crowd just went wild. And he had to rewind and wheel up and start again. And I said, whoa, I'm going to do an album in the studio that's like a live dance hall session. So I had Chaplin bring like 50 friends at Dynamic.
Was that 2 Sides of Charlie Chaplin?
That is. You
Boom.
know it?
Of course.
Is that historic?
Boom Shot?
It is.
Boom
Wicked.
Shot.
Wicked.
Can you join me in saying Boom Shot? No, like you mean it. Boom Shot? That's a Boom Shot album. 2 Sides of Charlie Chaplin.
So anyway, had 50 people. This is the same studio where the Rolling Stones recorded Goat's Head Soup. Paul Simon did Me and Julio by the Schoolyard.
Right, sure.
And
Northern Child Reunion as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had 50 people in the studio, cases of Red Stripe, tons of ganja, lots of food. The engineer just rolled the big 2-track tape, you know, and Charlie did his live thing in a studio. And to the best of my knowledge, that's had never, ever been done. Never.
Yeah.
That was an original idea. Most of my ideas and inspirations are partially ripped off from other things that have come before.
Yeah.
So anyway, when we were done, this was such a wicked session with people going boop, 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 and just going wild, and Charlie having to wheel again, and the Roots Radix, the
Right.
hottest band
Right.
in Jamaica, just destroying the place. And Chaplin had a licensed gun. So after the session, we went outside the studio in Kingston, and I popped the gun up in the air 3 or 4 times. And, you know, I've never owned a gun, and I'm not into guns at all. I'm like a peace and love kind of guy. But that adrenaline felt pretty cool at that moment.
Children, don't try this at home. Now, you're a Jewish man, and then you became a Rasta man. What was that transition like? Because so much of Rastafarianism draws from the Jewish tradition.
Well, first of all, we don't say Rastafarianism. We leave out the ism.
Yeah, kind
We
of.
just say Rastafari.
All right, there you
But,
go.
you know, no disrespect
Yeah.
still, but bless.
Yeah. I love it when an American tells a Jamaican how to talk Jamaican. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know? Jamaican
yo,
lives
Colin.
matter. Jamaican lives matter.
Yo, they call me Naramp because me Naramp.
Me no say
You
no
know,
ramp.
see it.
Me no say no ramp and
Okay,
skin
you know,
up. We
you know
that-
you talk to,
that
right?
the original Dr. Dre.
True
yeah,
man,
true
all
man.
right?
Yeah. See,
Everyone say Irie.
yeah, listen. The man
So
full of
anyway,
vibes, man. So yeah.
Where were we?
So
Oh,
now-
yeah.
Yeah. So as what was that like?
Well, this is kind of cool because when I first went to Jamaica in '77,
Yeah.
I was walking a lot because I
Yeah.
really wanted to get to know the country.
Right.
And I'm walking between like Lucy and Green Island.
Yeah.
And if you can see this little button in my hat,
Yeah. Yeah.
it says Sons of God. And there's a photograph of Haile Selassie in it. So how many years ago is 77 from 2015? 38? So this Rasta man took this button out of his shirt, this button, and we had a reasoning in Jamaica. When people talk to each other about things, they call it a reasoning. So we had this reasoning where he's, checking me out, and he took this button out of his shirt, and he pinned it on. I had a red, gold, and green tam at the time.
Right.
And, I don't know, something happened in that moment.
Yeah.
And, if you offered me $5,000 for this little button, I couldn't sell it to
That's
you.
5,000 Jamaican dollars.
Well, yes. If it was U.S., we could discuss
We could talk.
the figure. But, then there was a day I was walking down Trafalgar Road in Kingston, and I'd recorded a song with Don Carlos called Just a Passing Glance
Yeah. Good song.
of Rastafari.
Yeah.
And I'm serious, Colin, my whole spirit
Yeah.
filled up with the light of His Majesty,
Right.
Emperor Haile Selassie I. And, even though I'm supposedly white and supposedly Jewish, I believe that Haile Selassie, because of what he represented and talked about, is the second coming of Jesus. And he was a very compassionate person. Ethiopia is one of the only, if not the only country in Africa to never have been colonized. It's always maintained its own government from ancient times. Marcus Garvey prophesied a black king would be born to Africa who would trace his lineage to King David and King Solomon. And this is what Selassie I did.
But you must admit that it's a bit of it's a far spiritual journey, right? And it's a wide embrace to, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Luther Campbell.
Yo, 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 yo. Would everybody please give Colin a hand for rising to the occasion and coming in? How you doing, man? So, Luke, I told everybody you were out fucking pussy, and that's why you were late here.
Oh, no.
No, you changed up your style now?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, guess what?
I'm a nice guy.
I know you are.
And married. You can't just be running around.
And I read your book.
Oh, really?
I really did, man.
Really?
Yeah, I learned a lot about Miami.
Great.
And how they resettled the ghettos and built the road through to displace people.
I-95.
Yeah, I actually recommend his book strongly to you. And since I've had so much time taking up your time and probably boring you half to death, I think Luke should tell us something that we might want to hear.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, great, everybody being here. Nice being here. I know the weather was a little bad early this morning, and I did C-SPAN, and it started raining, and I tried to get the young man, the interview guy, to try to dance. He started singing the wrong songs. He thought I was Flow Rider.
I hate when that happens, don't you?
Right.
Hate it.
I guess that's C-SPAN. But yes, it's good to be here. I mean, this is my first time coming to the book fair, in Miami. That's horrible, being that it's the 32nd one. I'm normally on the road this time of year, but it's a beautiful thing. My wife, my son, everybody's enjoying it and everything like that. But it's good to be in the book business because my publisher HarperCollins when they approached me and wanted to do this book, it was like, a dream come true, to be in with a publishing house and a young lady named Tracy who does good in editing. It was great to be a part of that. And I didn't know how big HarperCollins really was until my attorney wife, who reads a lot of books, was like, no, you're at the top of the food chain here. And that was a good thing, and because I wanted to get the message out the right way. And it was important that I tell not only my story, as a young man growing up here in South Florida, but much more the story of Miami, because there's so many people that come here that don't live here right now, and people visit Miami on a daily basis. Everybody comes here. Everybody goes.
They
to
go
the beaches,
party in South Beach.
Party to
right.
South Beach, and what was very intriguing was while I was doing the book, it was a difficult task, because it was like I could do a book on the free speech and going to the Supreme Court and winning at the Supreme Court. I could do a book on being the first guy to have a record band. I could do a book on creating hip hop in the South. So it was like I got to be able to do a book where I tell a story where it feels like you're reading a movie, which I think people are getting out of it based on the reviews and things that I want to do. But while I was writing this book, there was a commissioner here in Miami-Dade County, and he made a statement on the dais. He said, Cubans built Miami. And when he said that.
That sounds like bullshit to me.
Oh, it definitely is. He said, Cubans built Miami. And I was like, huh?
Hold on, man.
Yeah, I was like, stop the press. And I was in the middle of writing a book, and I just changed the whole beginning of the book. And I said, you know what? It's just so many people that come here that are not familiar with the history of Miami. And there's so many kids that are growing up that are not familiar with the history of Miami. And so I started the book out, talking about Miami, when it first started, when it was all what you're sitting on right here was pretty much muck and Everglades. And I talked about the Bahamians, which my mother is Bahamian. When the Bahamians came here, they built Miami, and it was actually 40% African Americans here in Miami. And when you look at the Articles of Incorporation, there are actually black people on the Articles of Incorporation. So it was very important to tell that story, and then tell a story of a lot of things that we're going on right now today. When, like you said, when we talk about, that I-95, people ride through I-95 and like, oh, this is a beautiful highway here that gets us from Miami.
They got all the skyscrapers on all the sides.
Yeah, and
it wasn't always like that, was it?
No, it wasn't like that, because this right behind you, if you're not familiar with Miami, or if you're from here, there's a little city called Overtown, and Overtown is where all the African Americans lived at. And I talk about in the book. My mom, my grandmother, and everybody lived in Overtown, and that was our city. And I talk about Miami Beach. Everybody loves to go to Miami Beach, and at that period of time, blacks couldn't go to the beach. They would have to be off the beach at 6 p.m. So people are like totally amazed by these different things that was going on back in those days, and how rich Overtown was, with guys like Sidney Poitier and all, you name it, all the top African American entertainers, they would go to Miami Beach to perform, and then they would come back to
They
Overtown.
would ignore Overton? Or
No.
would they come in? Would they do shows there too?
Oh yeah, they
would.
Yeah, they would come. They would come to Overtown.
They got the support of the people
because they couldn't
there.
stay on the beach.
No, but I mean, would they entertain people there?
Yes,
or just
yes.
They would.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. What you see in the Lyric Theater, that was one of the main theaters
Okay.
that they would go to. And my mom used to tell us all these stories about Overtown. And then, at one period of time, that's when I-95, when folks wanted to, just blow up the community because everybody, realized how rich it was. They then took the highway I-95 and ran it right through Overtown to try and displace folks over there. So I started telling the story about that, as well as, my father when he first bought his first house in Liberty City.
I remember that.
And there's this wall at the projects that they call right now the Pork and Bean Projects, which, if you're an older person, you hate that name because during those periods of time, everybody who lived on the outside of the wall was pretty much white folks, and they used to say the people who lived on the other side of the wall in the government houses, only thing they could afford is pork and beans. So they called it the pork and beans. And so when kids say it right now today, we have to explain to them that that is not what you want to call that area there. And then when you look at it today, you know, you see things like even that area right now, I'm fighting, you know, city commissioners every day because now they want to take the government houses and tear those houses down and make affordable houses and displace those people like they've been doing. So I find that the book is very, you know, I have to do the history, and then I get into the Two Live Crew and all those different parties that you went to.
I went to 2 Live Crew parties.
Yeah,
I used to hear 2 Live Crew blasting out of people's cars in D.C. I'm from D.C.
Oh, okay.
And
good.
I'm like, whoa, man, this is some like out there shit, man. This is like really pushing the envelope. But people were bouncing up and down in their cars and loving it. So you must have appealed to certain people. But me, I was doing different music. I was doing Jamaican reggae.
Oh,
and you
okay.
talk about that in your book too, how some of the people down here would, you know, go back into the reggae and then back into your thing. Did you write your book, or did you talk it into a tape recorder and have someone write it?
I talked it to a guy. We spent a lot of time together. We spent many days, many hours together, and you know, I started out writing the book myself, but I said, no. I can't mess this up.
Okay.
I don't want the critics killing me. You know, and
see,
so I
think
didn't put my ego to the side. You know, this is what I don't do. You know, and I always learn that you a butcher. If you're a butcher, you're a butcher. You're a baker, you're a baker. So let this guy who's very experienced write the book. And I interviewed quite a few guys.
Because I found with writing my book, even though it was my life story, just like your book was your life story. And I think I've heard that everyone has a book in them because everyone has experienced life.
Yes.
So they can relate their experience. But I feel when you're writing a book like that, for myself, and I picked up on it from yours as well, that you really have to have a message that you want people to learn from your life experiences instead of just saying, yeah, I went to this elementary school, then I did this, then I did that. So, you know, what would you say is the deeper message that you wanted to convey from a book that I find very entertaining as well as a historical perspective on Miami, which for me, that was a really cool part of it, because I don't really dig your music that much.
That's good.
That's cool. We're good, right? No, I'm kidding, man. We're
That's
good, man.
okay.
So anyway, if you were, what message, I mean, did you feel that way, that there needed to be something more than just, hey, this was my life, this is what I did?
Well, I mean, when I sought out to do the book, it was more from the standpoint that, you know, I look at myself as the Rodney Dangerfield of hip hop music. You know,
you mean you can't get no respect?
I get no respect. I mean, you know, being a guy from Miami, you know, starting hip hop from the point of me DJing and bringing rap artists down here back in the 70s, you know, when artists was, you know, when there was no such thing as hip hop, and I evolved into doing the music. You know, I just looked at it like, you know, here I am 25, 30 years in the business, you know, and there's no mention of anything that we did. There's no mention at no given time of us going to the Supreme Court, fighting for free speech, fighting for hip hop music.
No mention where?
No mention in the industry. When they give out the Lifetime Achievement Awards, they don't never mention us. They don't mention
Disrespect, like Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, it's total disrespect. And I think, you know, when you start hip hop in the South, when you created hip hop in the South,
For the community.
Exactly. I think that's very, very important because, you know, we were like we were like outcasts. I mean, I would go to concerts and have fights with Run DMC because they hated rappers from Miami. So it wasn't
Why?
like
Why do you think that was?
it
Why?
wasn't an
What?
easy
I
transition.
mean, coming from their head.
well,
Have
there
you
wa-
thought about, you think it's just a straight up competition thing or
No,
what?
it was more of if you're not from New York, you ain't where it's at. You know, you're not hip hop.
not cool like
so
that.
when you see the movie NWA, there's other layers to that because when people hear about these East Coast West Coast battles when they used to happen, it was other layers to that because we were really considered outcasts. You know, from all aspects, whether it was touring or anything like that. So when like I said, going back to why I did the book, I was really angry that nobody wants to tell the story. You know, when you look at the parental advisory sticker, I created that sticker. When you look
So
at
what's the message? What is it that you really want people to know about? I mean, yeah, we all know your history. We know about the gold and platinum records and, you know, the Supreme Court and the people tried to shut you down. But I mean, bigger picture,
the message
deeper
was-
life message. Life message.
The life message is you can, through hard work and dedication, that anybody could pull themselves up from the bootstraps. You know, and that was the main message to it all. You know that, yeah. I mean,
Amen. True.
Yeah, I mean, here I'm with, you know, we're living in a 2-bedroom house, you know, in Liberty City with 5 brothers, a mother and a dad, you know, and you know, we're not knowing which direction we're gonna go in. It ain't like we had silver spoons in our mouth. We had to work, and basically, you know, like I say, when people read the book, I want them to get out of it that I can achieve anything and stand as a man and stand for what you believe in. And that is the other part of it because I did not have to go to the Supreme Court.
True.
I wasn't going to jail.
You spent your own money
Yeah, I
doing that
spent
too.
a lot of my
How much?
life, millions and millions of dollars.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are you
yeah.
bullshitting me?
I had cases.
Come on,
I had-
man.
These lawyers around here, Bruce Rogo, he's like Perry Mason. He costs a lot of money. I mean, when you go to the Supreme Court, you got to go to District Court of Appeals. This appeal.
Just to
then-
pay to park there costs
I
money,
mean,
right?
It's a lot.
That's
of
what we call the
appeals.
Babylon system, man. You got caught up. But you know, I talked to my music lawyer in New York and mentioned to him I was going to be on a panel with you. And he said that Luke, what he did at the Supreme Court has really benefited a lot of rap artists and music artists to have the freedom to sing about whatever they want to say. And I think that alone, this man deserves a round of applause for. Because that's, you know, coming, you know, from my music attorney in New York. You know, he didn't say, oh, that guy put out some fucked up music or whatever. That's straight
You're
up.
doing a lot of
what he
cursing
said.
on Sunday. You can't be doing that.
You know what? I'm just trying to. You gave me the right to talk
He's
like
more
that.
explicit than me.
He gave me. I feel I can do it because he
Yes.
gave me the right.
That's right.
And when I did all my other book openings, even my friends who were there, they said, I know Gary's going to say the F word a number of times. And I did, and it's no big deal, is it?
No, it's no big deal.
But let me ask you something. I just thought this just came to me. Because you and I, even though we both did the same thing, we did it very differently. Now, I did a lot of things without the thought of how much money am I going to make. And give it to us straight. When you were in the thick of it and doing it and you were happening and people were buying your records like crazy, were you just doing it for their money or was there another something going on besides I just want to make as much fucking, money for, you know, as much money as I can?
No, it was never about the money.
Really?
You know, no, not at all.
That's
I
cool,
mean,
man.
yeah,
That's really
because-
cool to hear.
Let me tell you.
Because
I-
you were making a lot of
Oh
money.
yeah, I was making tons of money. I mean, I had opportunities to move to New York. You know, once you know, I'm here. I'm selling these.
Probably
records.
could have moved to Beverly Hills if you wanted, right?
Yeah, but you know, but I had major record labels wanting to sign me up, sign the company up, sign up everything, own everything, and they, you know, they were offering tons of money. You know, the same thing when I was offered to go to California, move the company to California, do movies and things like that. And it was more. It was not about that. If I wanted to take the money, then I would have been another guy.
So what was it about?
It was about.
What else was it about?
It was about uplifting this whole Southern hip hop quarter. It was about that because I know if I'd have left, I'd been just like
Be a
everybody
vacuum.
else.
There'd be a vacuum
Yeah,
there.
it's so many people, and
Right.
I talk to so many kids on a daily basis.
I believe you, man.
You know, that are in college. When you leave, what we have a
Yeah.
tendency of doing, we'll leave Miami
True.
and then get educated and never come back. And so young people won't look at. They don't have anything to look up to. So when I look at the record companies that you see around here today, from the Po' Boy records with Flo Rida and all these different artists and the Rick Rosses of the world and the DJ Khaled's, I feel like I'm a part of that because if I'd have left, then it would have been just another record company leaving, not necessarily associating myself with the South. And when you read the book, you'll hear the story about me discovering Pitbull. You know, he you know, being that my mother's mother is Cuban, and we live in a place where we all live together, you know, one Miami, is a large population of Cubans here. I said, I won't be complete unless I find a Cuban artist.
Cool.
And,
That's cool.
and
You
I had
were
to go find
open.
him.
You were open to that.
Yeah, I had to find this guy, and I mean,
You're not I notice in your book
if
a
I'd
lot
have
of
left,
times.
I wouldn't have found him. If I'd have been in LA, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have found
no,
him.
man. I respect you a lot for staying here. I drove through Overtown yesterday, and I think I saw, is it Booker T. Washington High
Yes,
School?
yes.
Is that the one you're affiliated with, or is that just a high school in Overton?
Oh, that's a historic high school in Overtown.
Is it?
Yes.
You see this guy here? This
Is-
guy, he has been giving me a rough time all day.
really?
I've been trying to be really cool
Excuse
with
me.
this dude.
I'm giving you
But
some of
see?
your own medicine.
You see
that's
what
all.
he's doing now, Luke?
Exactly.
Yeah, you know?
He's the censor.
Yeah, something like that. I think he's working with Tipper Gore. He looks a little like Tipper, doesn't he? Little
Guys,
bit.
Maybe
This
Al.
is the reason why kids shouldn't do drugs.
I never exhaled, okay? That's the problem.
You follow
Never
the,
exhaled.
you follow the duck rule. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's not chicken. You know that.
What is it?
No, I don't know. It's not a duck. Okay. We have a few minutes for Q&A.
That's
sorry.
it?
I mean, like you got plenty, but we need to give him some few. You know, it's not about
Okay.
you. Okay.
Oh, sorry, man.
Dr. Drake.
See what I'm saying, man?
Exactly.
All right.
If anybody have questions, please.
I have one. First of all, thank you very, very much.
Who you
know
looking?
My name is Jason Wood. You know how far away Portland, Oregon is?
Yes.
All right. At the end of my teens, you were going through that mess with the Supreme Court. In the middle of it, you released another song, Banned in the USA.
Yes.
The amount of confidence that you gave people like me to pursue my music career and writing career and publishing career. We didn't have any black role models. There's no black people up there. There's like Jimi Hendrix came from Seattle. That's about it. A couple basketball players. But I saw you on TV. I don't know if it was Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I don't know what it was. But the whole computer room for your distribution and how you set up your business as an entrepreneur. I never seen a black entrepreneur. That's 25 years ago. I've been an entrepreneur since that time. So I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to ask you, do you know now how much impact that you made? People don't give you credit, like you said, but do you understand like the level of impact that you made way beyond Miami, Florida?
Well, you never know until you speak to people like yourself, and then they tell you their story. You know, you never know. I mean, when I was doing things, and it goes back to whether or not I was doing it for the money. You know, I think when people are doing it for the money, they're trying to get as much money as they possibly can, and then just be done with everything. When you love something, you just do it for the love of it, and I kind of had an idea. When you read the book, you'll hear me talk about the story of my Uncle Ricky and my dad and my mom and the influence that they had on me, and they pretty much told me if I ever pull myself up from the bootstrap that I would be attacked, because this is just the way of the world, the country that we live in. So I was pretty much already warned about the things that I was getting ready to go through. I didn't know whether I was going to be successful or not, but I know I needed to break ground and train and teach others, because I was taught the same thing. And so that's my whole life is about that. Every day. Every day I'm at schools in Dade County working with kids, and I go to different colleges and talk to kids about the same thing, pulling yourself up from the bootstrap. And so I appreciate to hear the story, because you never know. You're just constantly working. You're trying to inspire others to do the right thing and do good things, and just do what you want to do. Like my wife. My wife she finished law school, and some years ago, and she didn't know what she was going to do, and she ended up fell in the bar one time, and then passing the bar, eventually passing it, and did not know what she was going to do, did not know what law firm she was going to work at. And right now I'm the same thing. My story passed on to her is that, look, you can be whatever you want to be. No telling where you're going to end up. And right now I'm happy to say she's a successful NFL agent, has players in the NFL, and she owns 2 or 3 restaurants. So I'm happy to outside of practicing. But I'm just I'm happy that you were inspired.
Believe me, I remember. Most rappers are in court for gun charges, drug charges, baby mama charges, and you were in court.
Like him.
I don't know.
Like this one right
Hold
here.
on. Did you read my book?
But you were there for the Constitution.
Yeah. See, that's the crazy part about it. Everybody thought I was the wild and crazy party man, but when you read the book, you'll find that I couldn't do it every day, because I actually owned, operated, manufactured the product, distributed it, market the product, and I was the record company, because there was no such thing as a record company.
A lot
in
of
Miami.
work.
So I had to go, I would go do a concert on the weekend, but I had to be in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. I had over 30 or 40 employees that they were looking for my guidance in a city that is not, where there was nobody had no experience in the music business. You can, in New York, you can, ask for it.
There's a million people.
There's a million people that have experience.
And they want to be in the music business.
Exactly. So it was a challenge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I am originally from Harlem, Haitian descent, and I just want to give a comment and then a question. But the comment is my two live moment was when I was in this club at the Tunnel in New York City.
Oh yeah,
And,
one of my favorite spots.
Yes. And so I had Tupac walk past me with some bodyguards, and at the bar was Biggie Smalls and Puffy.
Mm-hmm.
And the music that was playing was I Wanna Rock, I Wanna Rock, I Wanna
Yeah,
Rock.
yeah.
Anyway, so that's the comment. So but the question now, I've been in Miami for about 5 years, and I've been examining Haiti. And you mentioned about Cuba, how Cubans, the situation with Cubans, but large population, Haiti is almost neck and neck.
Yes, it is.
And when I think about Haitians coming to Miami, that's a whole nother story, right? So I wanted to ask you about if you questioned or examined the Zopan and Zoe, this whole Zoe movement that happened because when Haitians came to Little Haiti, which was not Little Haiti at the time, there was a lot of friction between African Americans and Haitians, which developed the Zopan. So I wanted to know if you talked about that in the book, and if you didn't, if you can express the sort of friction and now maybe the commonality and the understanding of these immigrant populations that are moving into South Florida, especially Haitians?
Yeah, well, I didn't touch on that part of it in the book, but I mean, just knowing the history and being here all my life, living on 58 Terrace and 11th Avenue, right down the street from Little Haiti, it's just like anything, I talk about, when my Cuban friends came over on the Mariel boat lift and I was going to high school and it was friction at that period of time, and then we all ended up becoming real good friends in school. And the same thing in Little Haiti. Yes, there was friction originally because most African Americans from Miami always felt like, okay, here's another group of people that are coming in and they really don't have any respect for African Americans because of whatever reason. There was tons of reasons. I'll be up here all day. But we eventually became friends and became allies through people like Wycliffe. When Wycliffe would come down here and have conversations with different groups, he through the music built those bridges and eliminated all these negatives. And I would say, just as many African Americans around here are very good friends and support Haitians to the utmost. I remember when they had when a lot of the Haitians got displaced and they moved them to Guantanamo Bay. It was me and some other artists. We rented a plane, and 727 plane, and we took tons of foods and everything over to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where they had these good folks housed at, and that was a part of us, being more together.
Could you ask everyone to be very brief with your question? I mean, these guys can talk for hours.
Yeah, we're book writers.
Yeah.
Hey,
No,
Luke,
We like
Luke. You see what I'm saying about this guy?
I know, right? I know, right?
He's telling people what to do.
Hey,
He's
mad.
But we're cool, right?
He's mad 'cause
Whatever
the
they say,
he's mad 'cause
we're
the
gonna go
Dolphins
with
are
it.
losing.
Is he?
Do you want
Next question.
Do you want people to sign your book?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Then hurry up then.
Sorry.
Dr. Dredd, thank you for picking up our culture and immersing yourself. We
Yeah, man.
appreciate you. I don't want to call it big up yourself for doing that Q&A earlier on as well. Uncle Luke,
My man.
we all have immigrant parents, and we really respect what you do with the kids in terms of coaching right now. Now, I was in 2 previous sessions at the book fair. Kid Ice yesterday, he was talking about his book and the roots of hip hop with Fab Five and Rosie. So for the kids that you're coaching right now, and they're listening to the hip hop of today, and you were part of the pioneering of hip hop in the South, what is your sense? Is hip hop still alive, and what is the future that you see for hip hop? And side editorial note, as a business and entertainment attorney, I have tremendous respect for what you did in the court system, and we don't cost that much.
And him, he's probably one of those $500 an hour guys. This guy here, Marlon's all, he's a TV lawyer and everything, And if you don't know this gentleman right here, he does a lot of great things for the community. He speaks, Mr. Marlon. Yeah, he represents the community. He holds people's feet to the fire. You can say that. I think the music business it's different right now through the internet, through these different outlets, whether it's Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, and things like that. It gives people it gives artists a better chance versus what it was before. You'd have to have an A&R guy come around, and if he likes you, he likes you. If he don't, he don't.
Radio promotion people having their hand out for money, right?
Yeah, so it's better from the independent standpoint, and I like it is right now, but at the same time, still radio is not as good as it should be. They're only playing 12 songs in a row because they feel like they're challenging the internet and all these other outlets. Virtually no videos on TV, so that marketing aspect of it is going, most artists are doing it on the internet, and I think we're seeing more artists achieve better goals now.
Go ahead.
Hi, I am Kira Willing. I'm I'm on the board of the book fair with Marlon Hill. We went to Southbridge together, and I'm also one of those $500 an hour attorneys that I do.
Uh-oh.
So, thank you to the cases that you all are referring to. That help divorce attorneys. So, Colin said I couldn't rap for you to prove that I do know all of the lyrics to your song. But as a cheerleader at Southbridge, we sang and danced on every bus football game. So like sort of the original party bus. But my question is, having grown up in Miami and listened to your music and watched the trajectory of your career, you know, I took your political campaign for mayor really seriously. I voted for you, I sent you money.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so what I wanted to know is, you know, do you see yourself throwing your political hat into the ring again, or do you have some other arena where you think you can affect the political or social or cultural change that you clearly, you know, have already done in your career, and you know, basically, what do you want to be? You can be whatever you want to be, right? You said that a few minutes ago. So what's next?
Old guy told me one time, he said, you can either be the king or the kingmaker. So I like being the kingmaker. You know, I think, you know, one thing thank you. One thing I got out of running for mayor, which was a great thing, when people look at where are these folks who voted for me, and they find that people like yourself, it wasn't just African Americans in Overtown and Liberty City, which they thought it was going to be. They found that people were voting for me from Avatar, Bell Harbor, and all these different places. Young people, Cuban people, black, white, Jewish, all different nationalities. And I tell people, and that's the reason why I do the New Times article. They don't pay me any money at all. I do it for free. You know, I'm able to express myself, and I'm able to say some of the things that people are discussing on the streets every day in Miami. So, you know, just being able to take, you know, the experience and being able to take that block of vote, that I feel like, hey, if I'm talking about an issue and if the issue's serious and if there's a serious candidate, and I can, you know, say, hey, look, this candidate is a good guy, or he's a bad guy, he's not for the community, and I say that, I feel like those individuals who are on the fence of whether or not they should vote for a good guy or a bad guy, that if I say it, then they'll take it in consideration, not necessarily vote for the person. But when I look at a kid like Keon Hardeman, who I speak about in my book, through my Optimist program, and he ends up winning, you know, he was a kid that came through the program. He ended up winning his race against a guy who got tons of money from a special interest groups all over Miami. For him to win, you know, and for us to be behind him and be able to have almost a hip-hop type race, that is what I look for in Miami, to be able to change Miami from the large standpoint, whether it's commissioners or state attorneys or whatever it may be, you know, to just get people to do the right thing for the communities. Thank you.
You talk about having a choice of so many writers. What made you finally to settle on this writer for the Book of Blue?
Well, you know, I read, he did a book on Michael Jackson. And when I read that book, it was very, very detailed, very, you know, I mean, you know, he always tells me don't tell his name, so I don't tell his name. He's a great guy. Great guy. I mean, when I looked at the Michael Jackson book, you know, I had different writers, guys who written books and who knew more about hip-hop history. But when I picked this guy, you know, he was a white guy, family guy, you know, and he just knew so much about hip-hop history, and he knew so much about my history. And when I read the Michael Jackson book, it was like, nah, this is the guy right here.
Well, he gave you the Michael Jackson book to read?
Yes, he did. Yes. I had about 5 different people that I was going to pick and choose from. Me and the author and my agent talked about, and I read his book and the other 4 books. And yeah, he's a great guy.
Hello, Mr. Campbell.
Hello.
My name is Kamala Fletcher.
Hi.
And I'm really excited to know about the different perspectives that you presented in your book, and so I am absolutely going to read it. And I have an invitation for you that if you could use your platform to engage our communities in climate change and climate resilience. We always know that around the world and in America that Black and brown and poor communities get hit the hardest, and it's not the message but the messenger.
consider taking that on as an issue that you help educate folks about.
Okay, I'll come and let you educate me.
I will give you my card.
Great.
Go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Campbell. This is a question for you in regards to music. Now, I'm a very young guy. I'm only 18. I'm the youngest guy in this room. And,
With him doing all this profanity.
So,
Put a stick
I
on
learned
his
I
mouth.
learned it from you, man.
so I happen to be in the modern day DJ business along with electronic music. And what I want to say is, in recent songs, you always hear that line, don't stop, pop, whatever.
Yeah.
And recently, I downloaded a song like a few weeks ago that used that exact line. And I'm like, does that come back to you in any way at all?
Oh, yeah, sometimes they pay me, and sometimes I have to go after them. I have to get the lawyer. I mean, hey, majority of the times, people are taking your work and thinking that they should not pay for your works. I had Baskin and Roberts take a song of mine from one of my artists. You probably heard the commercial, Ice Cream and Cake. Ice Cream and Cake, actually. They just put it on the commercial. It was like, okay. And I was like, okay.
They never got a clearance.
Never got
Never
a
asked for a clearance.
But they pay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they ended up, I'm like, I'm sitting there like, I'm living with the lawyer in the house. Okay. But she was actually too busy to take the case.
You had to get an
Yeah, I had to get
outside
an
attorney.
outside lawyer.
Whoa.
Yeah, he got the money.
But you got paid.
Yeah.
Not an ice cream.
Yeah, it's a lot of songs.
Go ahead, young lady.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to thank you with the camera. My name is Ambassador Elder Marka Yapa. I'm ambassador for that's Federation of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
I watched you through the years. I'm from Archibald.
Yes, that's my elementary.
And I know how your Mother Campbell, raised you up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little older than you. But your mother was everybody's mother.
Mm-hmm.
You were brought up with plenty of love. That's why now, in your heart, you're doing a lot. You're giving back to the community how you were raised.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing.
Yes, yes,
I
ma'am.
know because I was there. You see, your mother, Mother Campbell, she was everybody's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And you're giving back the love that she gave. And that's very important because our people need love, kind, journey. That's part of him. A man that shows himself friendly shall gain all friends. And you continue to do this because you're doing an excellent job, extraordinary job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last question, please.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I would like to thank you for the presentation and coming to this book fair every year. And now that you've published the book and you're going into a different type of venue, I'm hoping as I keep coming, I'm a teacher, and the difficulty is trying to get these young people to read.
Yeah.
And I look at what Oprah was able to do, and whatever she endorsed becomes, bestseller. I'm hoping that somehow we can get the hip hop community, the rap community, to find a personality that will, when they touch the book, the audience, and especially young people, will want to read. And since you put a book out there, now you're in that genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out how we can make this connect, because I got to get these young people reading. Because when I teach them, I tell them you've got to read to lead, and you got to write to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two skills that are most important in life.
Yeah, it's in doing the book, that was another thought in my mind, because everything that I've ever done is always been about encouraging others. When I started the record label, it was about, okay, other people will know that I'm doing a record label, and hopefully I'm successful, then they'll start doing the same thing. And in the same thing, running for office. When I talk to different young people around the country, other rappers are now running for office, and people are not scared to run for office. And I listen to the young guy, Keon, and he tells me, man, I was inspired because I was coming out of law school and I was in China doing something and I saw you was running and that inspired me, and that means a lot. And the same thing, you know, with doing a book, with writing a book and putting a book out, you know, and the book has been like #1 on Amazon for so many weeks now, and it's doing good across the country. I'm able to come here and talk to great people, and I'm able to go to Florida Memorial and different places all across the country and talk about this book, you know, and hopefully it'll inspire more people to read and learn about their history and read about other things in life that you can read about, because it's very important. I mean, me and Warren Sapp and my wife last night, we were just sitting there having a conversation about how many books he read. Here's a young guy that I try to mentor. He's been in every bit of trouble in the world. You name it, he's been in these troubles. But if you sit down and talk to him, and I sat down and talked to him, you know, last night, you would this kid is deeper than, and it was all because he's like, look, every time I had to go to LA, all I did was read a book. You know, I flew from LA every week to go do a TV show, and I read a different book. And it's very important for young people to do that. Hopefully, we inspire it through this book here.
Thank you. All right. That was the last one.
This young
I
lady
have
here.
a nice one. So I have a comment/question. So earlier you mentioned, number one, that this is your first time at the book fair. And then you also talked about people coming to South Florida, and they come to Miami for face up, ass down. That's what they come to Miami for.
Yeah, for the
So
South
even
Beach.
if they're really corporate at home, they come here for Sodom and Gomorrah because that's what they.
Exactly.
That's what we come here for.
Yeah, and
That's
him.
what they associate with.
And him with the weed. He come in for the weed.
We get that. We get that everywhere.
He liked it then. When I said weed.
So my question is, as a entertainment icon, and now you're in the political arena, and now you're doing the New Times article, you've never been to the book fair. But I was talking to authors and DJs earlier. Where is the disconnect between our hip hop artists, our political people, our community people, our authors, our poets, our singers, and the live music? People keep complaining that we don't have a scene in South Florida other than the ratchet, because we don't go to each other's things. So how do we get the hip hop artists to come to the book fair? Because they want to, and because they should, and because every hip hop artist should have been in this panel and the panel before. How do we get that word out, and where is your responsibility in that, in supporting all of the arts events that are happening in South Florida?
I mean, and I know the censor is shortness of the short version of that is, you go to Atlanta, and there are so many artists in Atlanta, and those artists are being discovered every day. The central location for it all is through the radio. Radio supports every artist from Atlanta. Miami radio does not support Miami artists.
Since we know that's not going to happen.
So what you have is the Rick Rosses and the DJ Khaled's and the successful guys around here, other than Pitbull and Flo Rida. They're the only ones that are doing something locally around here. You know, they're the only ones that are giving. They're the only ones that are giving back. The other guys moved out of town, and they're more so what you call international artists, where they really don't associate with the local artists here. When we were doing it, when I was really doing music, my whole thing was discovering the Poison Clan. They're from here. Pitbull from here, Trick Daddy from here, discovering all these type of artists that are from here. These guys don't associate that, but you know, like I say, the main thing is the radio. Radio does not support local artists, so you have a lot of local artists. If you ask, they'll be here, you know. But again, nobody wants to talk to a guy who's not successful. You know, when these guys are really kings on the street, you would be very, very surprised as the following that they have.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, the next move, they're going to be signing session outside to the right. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. The name of the book is The Book of Luke, My Fight for Free Truth, Justice, and Liberty City. You got it. My man. You good? All right. Excellent, man. What about yourself?
At 5 o'clock. I think, let me look in here.
Somebody take one of them.
Yes, sir. You got a copy of it?